Hello and welcome to another Prevention Ed Short. This one on alcohol in the brain, specifically how intoxication escalates. So this is a glimpse into some of our classroom curriculum on the second most popular psychoactive substance in the world, according to the World Health Organization, second to only caffeine, which is alcohol. And in addition to educating young people about the benefits of delaying age of first use and the risk associated with adolescent alcohol consumption in general, we know we're unlikely to completely eradicate adolescent alcohol consumption, especially in parts of the world where alcohol is legal for teenagers to purchase and consume. This is some aggregate data both from our substance use and peer perception surveys, as well as some other major large sample size survey projects from around the world. We see consistently, with the only exception being Europe 12th grade, that a healthy majority of students are making that healthy choice not to consume alcohol. But for those that are, as well as young people who will choose to consume alcohol later on in life, we want them to understand its mechanisms, how it affects the brain, and how to stay safe. This includes teaching about the standardized drink sizes. What do we mean by one whole drink? Especially important because we define high-risk drinking or binge drinking as 5 or more drinks on one occasion, but it's easy to misunderstand that the double shot cocktail or the 16-ounce can of beer might be more than one whole drink from a medical perspective that you're holding in your hand. And the reason it's so important to monitor how much we're consuming is to weigh it against this other critical variable of time. So in the classroom, we review that alcohol leaves the bloodstream, except for a medical professional doing a blood transfusion in an emergency. Alcohol leaves the bloodstream 4 ways: a little through urine, a little through sweat, a little through breath. That's why the breathalyzer works. But the overwhelming majority, over 90%, has to be processed out by the liver, which can only work at a fixed rate. And the generalization for the average adult-sized human liver is the liver can process out about 1 drink of alcohol per 1 hour. So we really drill in this 1 drink per hour rule of thumb, while also caveating that it's a generalization for the average adult-sized human liver. So if someone is not fully grown, or maybe they're a smaller person, their body might be able to process out 1 drink every 70, 75 minutes, for example. There are other variables we review as well, including body size, liver size, whether someone started drinking with a full or empty stomach. If someone starts drinking with a full stomach, there's going to be less surface area for that alcohol to enter the bloodstream, so it'll enter the bloodstream more slowly, giving the liver more time to process alcohol out. So someone with a full stomach will become less intoxicated from the same amount of alcohol that someone who started drinking on an empty stomach would. And we also review in broad strokes, some of the interactions between other medications and substances and alcohol that can pose unique risks, including accelerating the rate of intoxication or masking its effects, etc. We encourage students who are on medications to initiate conversations with their prescribers about what dangerous interactions might exist with alcohol or other recreational substances. This is the brain. Some of our students know that the brain starts developing from back to front. The very first part of our brain to develop when we're still in the womb is this brain stem, responsible for connecting our brain to our body and, importantly, sending signals for our body to carry out 2 vital functions: breathing and heartbeat. Then we start developing a hippocampus, start forming memories. Then we get a motor cortex, start learning how to walk and talk. And then we get to the prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain that's still developing all the way up until around age 25, responsible for things like decision making. We make sure our students understand that alcohol impairs functions of the brain in reverse order of its development. So perhaps one of our students understands the Prevention Ed message. They check to see if they have a family history of addiction. They don't. They know that age of first use is the single biggest risk factor for developing addiction, but maybe they've chosen to delay some, maybe till 18, the legal drinking age in their country, even though they recognize that delaying use probably is a protective factor until around age 25. Their stress levels are under control. They understand stress as a risk factor, but they have healthy stress management strategies, etc. And they make the choice that they're going to take the risk to consume alcohol. But they're a clever student. They know that these indentations on the red solo cup that they might see at a party are for measuring out different standardized drink sizes. So this bottom line, this tiny indentation towards the bottom of the cup is for measuring out a shot or 45 milliliters. This second line is for 5 fluid ounces of wine. And this line at the top is for 350 ml or 12 ounces of light beer, etc., knowing that standardized drink sizes vary by alcohol by volume percentage. So our young person in this hypothetical situation is going to make their own drinks, watch them get made by a trusted friend. They're going to monitor how much they're consuming. They're going to hold their drink from the top like this so that nothing unwanted gets put in that drink while they're not looking. And they're not going to leave their drink out of sight. They're going to go into the night with an accountability buddy, a friend to look out for each other's safety, etc. They're going to drink water between those drinks to help stay hydrated and help them space them out over that 1 drink per hour rule of thumb to avoid accumulating too much alcohol in their bloodstream and becoming overly intoxicated. So our student has this plan and they take the first drink. And that first drink impairs decision making. That's the first function of the brain to be impaired. And what decision are they faced with? Should I actually wait those 70 minutes that I said I would wait? Maybe they drink their water over half an hour. They're a little bored. And they decide, I'm just going to drink one every 30, 40 minutes. That's more than my friends are waiting, and it's risk reduction, etc. But because their decision making is a little impaired, they waver from their original plan and start to have that second drink. And now, after that second drink, they've started to outpace their liver and accumulate alcohol in their bloodstream. And they decide to cast the whole plan to the side. And this is a very real phenomenon. So some aggregated data from multiple of our student use and peer perception surveys at various schools found that 38% of high schoolers who had 5 or more drinks on one occasion drank more than they originally intended. So it shows us this is a very real phenomena that's important for students to understand. When someone starts accumulating alcohol in their bloodstream past this point, we start to see impaired motor skills. Stumbling, slurred words, trouble balancing or walking in a straight line, etc. Visibly clear intoxication. And this is around the range that we see the legal limit for driving in the United States. Try and prevent someone from driving before they reach this condition. But I like to emphasize that legal limits for driving aren't objective or unanimous. They're not numbers agreed by scientists and medical professionals saying this is how intoxicated it's safe to be while operating a motor vehicle. And they actually vary pretty significantly from country to country. And of countries that have a legal limit for driving, the United States has the most lenient, the least strict alcohol limit. And I share with students that based on my personal risk assessment and the information I have about alcohol, I don't get in the car with anyone who's had even 1 drink of alcohol because I know that that first drink impairs decision making. And there are all sorts of decisions that someone has to make on the road. Do I have enough time to make that yellow light? Do I have enough room to merge here, etc.? And there are just so many better options in most places in terms of alternative means of transportation that I don't feel it's necessary to put myself at that risk of getting in a motor vehicle with someone who has impaired decision making. If someone continues to accumulate alcohol, alcohol is eventually going to reach the hippocampus and start to shut down memory functions. So perhaps semantic, but it's not quite that individuals lose memories, it's that they never form those memories in the first place. Scary feeling. Waking up not knowing what high-risk choices I made the night before, who I spent time with, how I got home, etc. Really unsettling feeling that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And if someone continues drinking past that point, alcohol is eventually going to reach the brainstem and start to impair vital functions, which is why it's really important that young people understand the signs of alcohol poisoning, why it can be fatal, and how to respond. Alcohol overdose kills over 2,000 people in the US every single year, and the signs are critical to understand. The earliest, albeit imprecise, sign of alcohol overdose is vomiting, which when I was a young person, I thought it was only alcohol poisoning if you had to get your stomach pumped by a professional. Only in hindsight did I realize that vomiting is kind of nature's own way of pumping your own stomach. It's a sign from your body that it's alarmed by its blood alcohol content and is trying to prevent any more alcohol from entering the bloodstream. Increasingly serious signs of alcohol poisoning are definitive signs that alcohol has started to reach the brainstem and impair heart and lung function, namely slow or irregular breathing, losing skin tone, looking paler, or having a low body temperature, feeling cold. And a serious sign of alcohol poisoning that I deeply underestimated as a young person because I didn't have proper alcohol education is if someone is passed out and can't be awakened. They can't be awakened even if someone shakes them or splashes cold water on their face, etc. I used to think erroneously that if someone was passed out from having too much to drink, they had a pulse, they were breathing, they were fine because they're not going to drink anymore if they're passed out. What I didn't realize is that they could still have alcohol in their stomach or small intestine that's continuing to work its way into the bloodstream and could accelerate them into a fatal alcohol overdose. So someone showing these signs of alcohol overdose needs immediate medical attention. We review Good Samaritan laws and amnesty policies that exist in municipalities and institutions relevant to the students we're working with that protect them from getting in legal trouble for underage drinking or drug use if they make that life-saving call for help. And it's important for parents and institutions to make this clear as well. Without clear communication of these policies, many people pass away preventably because young people around them were too afraid to make that life-saving call for help of the disciplinary consequences. So amnesty policies need to be clear to support young people in making the right decision at the time. While we wait for medical attention, we gently put this person in the recovery position, using their knee to prevent them from rolling over to their front or back, and supporting their head with their hand to keep their airway clear and prevent them from choking on their own vomit, which is a real reason many people pass away from having too much to drink. That's preventable if we know how to respond correctly. We've reviewed some do's, call for immediate medical attention in the recovery position. The individual only needs CPR if they lose a pulse, their heart stops beating, or if they stop breathing. So we stay with them and be prepared to administer CPR. But let's bust some myths as well and clarify some don'ts. We don't force them to eat bread or any other food. The first time I got alcohol poisoning, my older cousin forced me to eat Wonder Bread. She thought it would help absorb the alcohol. I break this down with my students. I ask them, where's the alcohol in your body that's intoxicating you? It's in your bloodstream, working its way into the brain. The bread isn't going to suck the alcohol out of the bloodstream, and even if it did by some miracle, it would be in the stomach where it enters the bloodstream from in the first place. Additionally, the medical community makes clear that forcing someone who's experiencing alcohol poisoning to eat is a choking hazard. So that's another reason we don't do that. Now, if someone had started with a full stomach, it would have slowed the rate of intoxication and been relevant. But once alcohol is in their bloodstream, there's no function to introducing food. We don't place them in a cold shower. This is another old myth that still perseveres, that the cold is going to wake them up and provide an illusion of sobriety, but it doesn't lower someone's blood alcohol content, and they might already be experiencing a low body temperature and having trouble regulating their body temp. So shocking them in a cold shower could accelerate their state of emergency. And we also don't want to put them in a warm shower or a perfect temperature shower because this person has impaired motor skills and is at risk of passing out. They could fall and hit their head or break their arm, or worst case scenario, choke on their own vomit or choke on the water. Very dangerous to put someone in a shower. And we also don't induce vomiting. We don't make them throw up for a couple reasons. The first is that this person might not have a significant amount of alcohol in their stomach, and we're just dehydrating them and depriving them of fluids that are helping stabilize their condition. And we could also really injure them. We could injure their esophagus and do more harm than good. It's no substitute for what a medical professional can do, who can get alcohol not only out of the stomach, but out of the small intestine and do a blood transfusion if someone's blood alcohol content needs to be lowered immediately. We don't put them to bed or place them in a rideshare home. We never leave this person alone. That's how people pass away preventably. When I bring this content to young people, they're really grateful that an adult is giving them the tools and information they need to keep themselves and their friends safe. Even young people who are making healthy choices not to consume alcohol in adolescence, they're grateful that they know how to respond when a young person around them is experiencing an emergency. If you found this helpful, please feel free to check out our blog and our website. Get in touch with us about how to bring prevention content to your community. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope you have a wonderful day.